60 to 70% people doesn't know about that. That is the main reason transaction in the mortgages keep increasing day by day. You must apply for the mortgage and take your own apartment rather than just paying the rent.
Okay, Zishan, it's very common. You can say it's a myth or the question. You're the one to guide me over that, but it's considered when it comes to the mortgage. People think like so many documentations are required to process even the mortgage. So is it so?
Well, there is some certain documentation required. Definitely, bank checks the risk of the person who is taking the mortgage. But technically, the mortgage taking is the very simple and straight process, which definitely the experts can guide you end to end. But it's not that technical, which how people thinks about that. So it is just like taking a step towards taking a mortgage from the very simple documentation. Let's suppose if you are a resident with your Emirates ID, passport, visa, and your 6-month bank statement, simply the processor of the bank can check the eligibility for your mortgage, whether or not you are eligible for the mortgage. So usually there's not high demand from the banks. Even somebody who is earning 9,000 to 9,500 dirhams salary per month, he is eligible to take the home loan.
Oh, really?
Yes, definitely.
That's very easy thing then.
Of course, it is easy. 60 to 70% people actually doesn't know about that. They can take the mortgage and be the homeowners, and that's why they keep paying the huge rental amounts rather than taking the mortgage for themselves and being the homeowner. And I would say if you have a plan to live a few years into the UAE, and if you are thinking to live longer, you must apply for the mortgage and take your own apartment rather than just paying the rentals.
As per of my understanding, I think because of the mortgage, we can go for the multiple properties. Am I right or wrong?
Definitely yes. But taking one property at a mortgage, and after that, if you're willing to take another property, there is some certain time period of which is called a cooling off period. Then you have to wait for that time. But definitely yes. If you have on a one property in the mortgage, for the second property, definitely the down payment will be changed. For let's suppose if you are a resident, you can get 80% loan, but for your second property, you can get the 60% as a home loan.
For the same property, you mean?
For the second property.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get a loan on my first property that I already get 80%. You mean by pledging any sort of it?
Oh no, basically that term is called equity release.
Okay. Okay, Zishan. Assume I have a 10,000 salary.
Okay.
So what I'm going to get in this?
Within 10,000 salary, definitely we are going to assess the maximum capability of what the mortgage can be provided to you. But more or less, you can just assume 800,000 property value you can own with this 10,000 salary.
Really? That means I can have a studio of my own in a good community.
Okay, let me just ask you a question.
Okay, sure.
You just talked about the studio.
Okay.
I think you're also living into the studio.
Of course I do.
How much you are paying as a rent to the studio?
I'm paying 60,000.
And for yearly?
Yeah, yearly.
So it becomes like 5,000 monthly.
Yeah, 5,000.
What if I tell you that for the same studio, let's suppose if it has a 700,000 worth, maybe.
Yeah.
The same studio, if you are taking a mortgage, you have to pay monthly just 2,500 dirhams. Does it sound good for you?
Of course.
50% of the liability has already gone from your as a rental. But though that 2,500, you're not paying to anyone else. You're building your own asset because you're paying the installments for your studio, and later on that will be your own property.
But in that scenario, all I need to manage is my down payment.
Exactly.
Is there any other charges above than down payment paying to the bank?
Well, there are very minor charges,
Okay.
such as there is a 4% Dubai Land Department charges. That is for every property which you buy into the Dubai. And there's a 2% brokerage. Definitely that's the right.
That's where you jump in.
Of course, that's our right.
Okay.
Because we do all the processing and documentation for you. And apart from that, there is some very smaller payments. Altogether, you can just consider 7% of the property value as expenses.
So if I assume the property value is 700,000.
Yeah.
So what I need to have is 27%.
That's true. Yes.
Okay. That gonna actually save a lot of money of mine.
So for now, if you are taking an example of a 700,000 property, which means the down payment you are paying 140,000, which is a 20%, and 7% on top of that you will be paying as expenses. By just paying that value, you are going to own the property of a 700,000, plus you are saving each month 2,500 dirhams. That is a saving for every month. On top of that, rest of the 2,500 you are paying for your own installments, and ultimately that property of 700,000 you can own it after some certain number of years.
Man, I'm staying here for more than 3-4 years now, so I could have my own apartment rather than I'm just paying 60,000-70,000 every year.
Exactly. So I'm not surprised actually. 60 to 70% people doesn't know about that. They can, but this is a fact, and this is happening. That is the main reason the transaction in the mortgages keep increasing day by day, just like you mentioned in the beginning.
Okay.